Welcome to Opposition Territory here on the Philadelphia Sports Table Podcast Show, the longest-running weekly Philly sports podcast show in the world. Over 13 years strong. We got a great discussion coming your way on Opposition Territory this week. We're going to be diving into the Los Angeles Chargers, what this team has done during the offseason as they prepare for the 2006 regular season, and I know a lot of their fans hope the postseason as well. Joining us this week, we got our good friend. He's been on 5 or 6 times over the past couple of years here. Really enjoy the content over at the Locked On Chargers podcast, where you can hear his delightful voice along with his co-host as well. David Droegemeier, how you doing, my friend?
Doing phenomenal. Yet another year that I get to wake up and honestly enjoy the fact that I get paid to cover one of my favorite teams. So yes. It absolutely is an honor. And, the fact that I get invited back here to continue to talk ball with you is just another great opportunity to tap in to see what's going on with your neck of the woods and also reach another audience outside of my own.
Absolutely. Look, we love doing the Opposition Territory pods on this podcast platform, getting outside the world of Philly sports every now and again. It's good. It's healthy.
I agree,
for Philly
for sure.
Sports
we
fans.
can always be in our bubble, right? It's
Absolutely.
easy to stay in the bubble.
Absolutely. Well, I like to really focus on teams, whether it's in the NFL, the NBA, Major League Baseball, again, outside the world of Philly sports, because there's so many great storylines in sports. And with the Chargers in particular during this offseason, I really wanted to start by the fact that this team, they went 11-6 last year. And I think it's been really fascinating to see where this team is heading because of how competitive they have been in the AFC West. And now they're trying to make that jump, David, from getting a wild card spot last year to becoming a legit AFC contender. And the hope is possibly a Super Bowl contender as well. So let's really start with this offseason here and the foundations of it concerning the front office. How would you grade the front office during this offseason thus far, and why would you give them that grade?
Yeah, so I think when you're considering the Chargers front office and what they were able to do, what they were capable of doing this offseason, they had a lot of money. They had a ton of cap space, and they still do, even now. The Chargers under Joe Ortiz are very draft-centric. They are very, very particular about how they spend their money in free agency, as evidenced by how they've approached it the last 2 years. They really, truly want to build through the draft. They believe in drafting, developing, and re-signing their own guys, while also keeping the comp pick formula very much at the forefront of their mind as well. They want more cracks at it. They want more swings at the draft. That's how they want to build it. And so for a lot of Charger fans, including myself, I wish that they were a lot more aggressive. So is my dog, as you can hear her in the background.
Of course, absolutely. She wants that aggressiveness coming from the front office.
So with the Chargers, it was just the offensive line, right? They had one of the worst offensive lines in the history of football last year. Justin Herbert got hit 129 times. And so Charger fans were like, hey, you got to fix this offensive line. Like, go out and get the best. I don't care. Go spend the money. You have it. Like, there's really no excuse to do it. And they didn't. Like, they really did not. They brought in Cole Strange from Miami, a guy who knows the scheme, knows Mike McDaniel, right? Which I understand that move. I get it. It helps everyone else on the offensive line learn a very, very new system that's very different from what they were using last year under Greg Roman. But I think, with that being said, I like the way they handled the draft. They were able to bring in a lot of good talent again in this draft class. So I think it's a C+ for me. I just wish they were more intentional about addressing the offensive line, especially the guard spots. I like what they did at center with Tyler Biotish. I think he's a great fit. Yeah. In the zone scheme that they're going to try to run, very athletic, can get out in space and really be effective in that, and also just does a good job of not allowing his quarterback to get hit, which that's definitely something that Justin Herbert needs after the last couple of seasons of, frankly, getting abused. So, it's a C+, borderline B- for me.
All right, I wanted to dive into free agency a little bit more, just in terms of what the front office did here, because as we all know, us NFL fans, free agency is always a way for NFL teams to really plug holes that need to be plugged, and even finding some depth. Philadelphia Eagles very much do that during the course of the off seasons. It's just been the norm here in Philadelphia. But some teams overshoot. They pay out massive contracts. Some teams do need to do that. They're pressured to do that. Some are more conservative. And it seems like what you were talking about just now, there was a more conservative-based approach, perhaps, from the Chargers front office. I mean, the Chargers did plug some holes, like you were talking about. Offensive line at center, perhaps right guard as well. There could be a three-man competition from what I understand at right guard here. But it's needed. These guys were needed in free agency. So what were your assessments of the free agency acquisitions in terms of how these players can really benefit this team in the future, if you want to get into it in a little bit more detail here?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that wasn't the only moves that they made in the offseason as far as acquisitions are concerned. Like, one of the very first players that they decided to go out and sign was former Ravens tight end Charlie Kolar, who was primarily a move tight end, a blocking tight end, one of the better blocking tight ends in the NFL. They had a guy like that before, but he was more built for the gap power scheme that they were using under Greg Roman, and Charlie Kolar is a little bit slimmer, a little bit more athletic, can get out there and get out and reach those type of blocks that they want to reach and be those athletic movers. They brought him in. They bring in Alec Ingold. They also go get Keaton Mitchell, which they never expected to be available. Just a lot of pieces here that are going to really bring that Mike McDaniel rushing offense to life, which if you look what he did in Miami, he authored one of the best rushing attacks in the NFL pretty much every single year.
Yeah.
He knows how to do it. He knows how to build it. And he's bringing in players that are going to allow Omarion Hampton to really shine in this offense because of those moves. So it was really like, hey, let me get the guys that I need. Maybe not the best players in the world, but guys that are going to be best for me and for what I'm trying to do, which you can see Mike McDaniel's fingerprints all over the type of moves that they made. They didn't really make too many additions on the defensive side. It really was just, hey, let me bring in guys that are going to run this offense the way that Mike McDaniel wants to run it. And I think they are very, very, very much in position to have success right away because of these smart, low cost, kind of low commitment type of deals.
Yeah. It's interesting, Dave, how you talk about this offense and the changes within it here. And recently on the Locked On Chargers podcast, you and your co-host were talking about whether or not one Ladd McConkey could dominate this coming season. Really good episode, folks. Head on over to Locked On Chargers and check out that episode where they were talking about Ladd McConkey. And I'm forgetting the defensive player you were talking about, but it was a great show. Great show.
Thank you.
Look, in 2024, Ladd McConkey puts up over 1,100 yards receiving, but last year, 789 yards receiving, not necessarily the greatest year for him. And this is Ladd McConkey, I think, is going to be an amazing wide receiver in this league. I think this year he's going to thrive in this offense. I mean, his route running, especially on short and intermediary routes, is some of the most incredible that I have seen. I was actually looking at some film with him just a couple days ago as we were preparing for this interview and our discussion here. So I'm wondering, first, is the expectation that McConkey could actually have, say, perhaps 1,200 yards or more this coming season? And how does it all translate to how this offense is going to be run under Mike McDaniel?
Yeah, so Mike McDaniel's offense is all about speed. It's all about getting the ball out quickly. It's all about setting up your playmakers to get yards after catch and, protect your quarterback by doing that at the same time. You're building in schematic ways to help prevent your quarterback from getting hit, which helps everybody. Your offensive linemen don't have to block as long. The defense has a shorter amount of time to react. The offense knows what they're trying to do. They know where they're supposed to be. And if the timing and the precision is on, then you have a quarterback that can access any part of the football field with his arm strength and his accuracy. So you couple that with a guy like Ladd McConkey's true unbelievable running route running ability. Very crisp. Very crisp, very clean. Also has a really innate feeling of accessing and understanding where the soft spots in the zone are, and he does a great job of just sitting in those spots. And this offense is all about yards after catch, right? They want to get these guys in motion. They want to get them in open pockets to let them create with the ball in their hands, and Ladd is very, very good at that, very capable of that. And unfortunately, last year, I think that's an outlier year. Like I mentioned, they had one of the worst offensive lines in the history of football last year. They had very little running game, and that affects everybody. It's not just affecting the quarterback, not just the running backs, but the receivers have less time to be able to get into their routes and be able to find their spots, to be able to get open because of the offensive line not giving them the time to do so. So everybody hurts when the offensive line, the spine of your football team, is not strong.
Absolutely.
So that's why it was so important for the Chargers to get both of their tackles back, which seems like they are trending to do so. And if they are, they're elite. There are two guys that are force multipliers that are going to make everybody around them better, including Ladd McConkey. And I think Ladd McConkey is going to get featured in this offense. He's going to be the focal point as the receiver in this offense, and he's going to explode. I have absolutely no problem seeing 1,200 to 1,300 plus receiving yards for Ladd McConkey in 2026.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it can be done for sure. I really do. It's going to be fascinating to see. Again, folks, we're talking to David Droegemeier from the Locked On Chargers podcast. Head on over to Apple Podcasts. That's where I listen to the podcast. I know you're also on YouTube as well, correct?
Absolutely. Yep. Locked On Chargers on YouTube, 3 to 5 shows per week, all year round.
Bless your souls, all you Locked On folks. Our friend Lou DiBiase from Locked On Eagles, he's a good friend of the show, and I'm saying,
just a beast, man.
Yeah, man. How do you guys do it? I just don't know. I just don't know.
It's just it's the routine. We're already beating ourselves into it. That's just what we know we have to do. So they put out the call and we answer it.
There you go. Folks, we're going to take a break, and when we come back, we got more Chargers talk. Specifically, we're going to be diving into the defense and the strengths and weaknesses of this Chargers team heading into 2026 and regular season. We'll be back in just a bit. All right, we are back again with David Droegemeier from the Locked On Chargers podcast. Where can they find you on the socials out there if they want to get in touch with you, David?
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter or X, whatever you like to call it, at DroTalkSD. That's DRO Talk SD. I'm also on Instagram. You can just find me at David Droegemeier. I'm also on TikTok as well. Same thing. I do go live on TikTok every once in a while because I like to interact with people. As a podcaster, I'm always talking at people, and they're listening to me while I'm talking. There's not a lot of interacting. And I'm a very social guy, which obviously helps with this profession here. But I also like to talk to the fans, and I appreciate them, and I want to make sure they're a part of the show and they feel like they have some ownership of what's going on. So I like to provide my access whenever I can to be available to them. So yeah, check me out, man. I'm always there, always willing to talk Chargers.
Awesome. Let's get into the defense now here with what we're going to see with this Chargers team, because there's no mistake at all, David, that the Chargers defense is a huge strength heading into this season. Even with new defensive coordinator Chris O'Leary, they're still poised, I think, to make a lot of noise this year, and especially in the AFC West. But I do wonder how much weight. I've been wondering just how important and critical, and again, how much weight is going to be on their pair of D-backs and their 2024 fifth-round selections, Tarib Still and Cam Hart. These guys are going to need to make some strides, I think, this coming season. Am I correct in assuming that? What are your thoughts on this storyline and what they mean to the defense here?
Yeah, I think that, you come to this conclusion because you look around the different position groups for the Chargers on defense, and there's not a lot of deficiencies out there. There really isn't. There's a lot of strength. They got a really good defensive line group. They have some fantastic edge rushers, and they have probably one of the deepest safety rooms in the NFL. I truly, truly believe that. When it comes to the cornerbacks, right, there's talent there. I think one guy you got to keep in mind is Dante Jackson, a guy who had 4 interceptions last year and was one of the better cornerbacks in the NFL. He was fantastic, a true playmaker, and a guy that was just stingy, still playing really, really high quality football, and is only, making $6.5 million a season. It's just absolute steal for that quality of play. But for Tarib Still, after coming off of a rookie season where he was able to grab 4 interceptions himself, he didn't get any interceptions last year, but they also didn't really throw at him as much. He did not get as many opportunities. So one of the things we wanted to see as a form of growth for him going into his sophomore season was being a little bit of a better tackler and, making some better decisions, because when you're a ball hawk and you have those instincts, sometimes you want to go take a shortcut and go try to make a play, right? You want to go try to break on a ball, and sometimes, you're going to get burned. And he did, he allowed several big plays. And so you kind of have to find that happy balance between taking a calculated risk and trying to make sure you wrap up and make a tackle and get a guy on the ground. So you keep a 17-yard play from turning into a 35, 40, or 50-yard play. Right. So that's the thing with Tarheeb. He did a much better job of that. I think his evolution is getting back to getting his hands on the football again, right? That's what it really means. When you want to be a playmaker at corner, like, that's what you got to do. And then for Cam Hart, a guy who has some chronic shoulder injuries, shoulder issues throughout his career, the talent is there, man. Like, he has all of the measurables that you want. He has the size, he has the length, he has the speed that you want at the cornerback position, and he plays physical, right? He plays with a little bit of an edge. So, yeah, there's some pressure on those two guys to perform, because there's not a lot outside of those guys right now to push them, and they weren't really able to address that position in the draft. So, yeah, they're looking for these guys to improve, but you know what the best friend of a defensive back group is?
A pass rush.
A really damn good pass rush. And guess what? The Chargers definitely got that.
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, let's move now into what the biggest strengths on this Chargers team are heading into this season, and the weaknesses as well. Let's start with the biggest strength on this team. What do you think that is, David?
Yeah, I think biggest strength on this team is just the variety of weapons and the quarterback play. I think Justin Herbert truly is one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL, a dual threat, a guy who doesn't get enough respect for his rushing ability. He could really, really hurt you with his legs. He's very dangerous with that, very accurate with his arm. But you look at this Chargers offense, and they got two tight ends that can hurt you with Rondé Gadsden and David Njoku. They have two really good running backs that are going to hurt you in different ways with Amarian Hampton and Keaton Mitchell. You have wide receivers that can do a lot of different things, like Ladd McConkey. Quentin Johnston's very good with yards after the catch. You have Trey Harris, who is emerging and getting better going into his second season. You also bring in the 4th-round pick, Brendan Thompson, who is a true burner, like one of the fastest guys in the league, running a 4.26 40.
Crazy.
So you just have a lot of different weapons on offense to have to worry about. And I really don't envy the defensive coordinators out there. There's going to be a lot of very long nights trying to figure out what they're going to try to stop, because there's a lot of weapons at the disposal of Mike McDaniel and Justin Herbert. But as far as the weaknesses are concerned,
let's get into that.
I think it's still the offensive line on the interior at the guard spots. And the thing is, what we have to understand is who Mike McDaniel is and what he needs to really orchestrate his offense to its peak effectiveness. Because they're attacking the outsides of the defense in the zone scheme, they need their tackles to be elite, not so much their guards. And for host of Locked On Dolphins, Kyle Krabs, told me basically, I was like, hey, so does Mike McDaniel not care about the guards or something? And he's like, no, he doesn't. He feels like he can scheme around them. He feels like that's a position group that, that he can cover up. And the Chargers have two great tackles. It's two elite guys with Rashawn Slater and Joe Alt. Very, very athletic, very smart, really, really damn good football players. Just really, really good guys. Force multipliers, like I said earlier, just really good guys. But the guards, I still have some questions. I know Cole Strange understands the offense and knows what Mike McDaniel wants to do. We'll see what he can do another year removed from a serious injury, right? He did have a torn meniscus at one point. So, and also, I'll like to point out as well, he had no off season before, going to the Dolphins. He didn't know he was going to get there. He got acquired very, very late. So he had no time in that system at all. He had to, basically go out of the frying pan and into the fire immediately. And that's really tough. He's going to have a full off season to be able to get back into it, get comfortable, and hit the ground running. So I think he'll play better in that position. But the left guard spot, it's a big mystery. It really is. And it wasn't addressed to my satisfaction, honestly. They bring in Coyote Awashika, who's been a backup. They get 4 different guys in the draft, including a center in Jake Slaughter, in the second round who has never played guard before in his entire life. And they're transitioning him from center to guard. So that's going to be a mystery how that takes. I think they want him to take that job, but it's going to be him, and it's going to be, about 2 or 3 other guys. I think that's the biggest question mark for me. And until they show me otherwise, it's going to be something teams are going to continue to try to exploit.
Well, David, as we're closing things out here, as we're looking to this upcoming season, what we may see from the Chargers, and I've been talking about this on our opposition territory pods with other teams as well. I'm wondering, which young player could really take that next step from a developmental standpoint and become perhaps a national face and star. Is there anyone on the team that you can point to that may fit into that mold? Maybe a possible prediction here.
Absolutely, yes. There was a guy I mentioned a little bit earlier on in the show that I will bring back up here. It's Omarion Hampton. Omarion Hampton's going to go nuclear this year. I think he's going to absolutely explode. He got hampered with some injuries last year. Like there's no way around that. But when he was on the field, man, was he explosive. He was very, very hard to bring down. He's a physical runner. He's always falling forward. If he finds a crease, he can get through it, and he has the speed to take it the distance. So in this offense, where he's going to have some very athletic tackles that are going to be out in front, blocking for him, opening up holes, with his natural talent and his great vision, mixed with Mike McDaniel's play calling, I think it's a match made in heaven. And I also expect the all-purpose yards to be there for him as well. I'm thinking there is a very realistic chance we can see him in the 1,500 to 1,600 all-purpose yards area. I think he's going to catch a lot more footballs than people think in an offense where they're trying to get the ball out of the quarterback's hands quickly. So Omarion Hampton, buy the stock. He's going to the moon.
There you go. Folks, he is David Droegemeier from the Locked on Chargers podcast. My friend, it was great talking to you. Seriously, always love having you on. Let's talk more ball in the future. I'd love to have you back on the show, my friend.
Anytime, brother. Thank you so much. Just let me know.